Reboots are tough to get right. In addition to being their own thing, they also have to recapture what made the original start to a series in the first place so great. Sometimes these reboots manage to launch a successful second iteration of a series, and sometimes they don't. But what about the few which don't really succeed at either? The reboots which just sort of come and go, quickly forgotten even if they manage to birth a sequel. Well, let's find out. The 2010 Medal of Honor is unique for the series in that it's the first to take place in the modern day. Centered around Operation Anaconda and the Battle of Roberts Ridge during the War on Terror in the Afghanistan theater, the game certainly has a feeling all its own, within regards to the rest of the games in the franchise. The single-player story has the player assuming the viewpoint of several soldiers during Operation Anaconda. One of these is slightly more special forces behind enemy lines base, while the other is much more in the heat of battle front lines type. There are a few side levels, such as piloting an attack helicopter, but for the most part, these two characters are who we experience the story with. And I want to say, the campaign was actually rather enjoyable. Even though I've been studying American military history for over 13 years, the War on Terror is one conflict I don't know too much about, besides the basics. Experiencing one of the major operations of this conflict, gunning about with modern tech, and not being overly silly about it, ahem. You won't really become attached to the characters, since the goal of the story is to put you in the midst of the fighting and not to thoroughly delve into the people involved, which makes things seem a bit shallow, but hey, things go boom. And this fucking level is tense as hell. Slowly being surrounded, running out of ammunition, and having your squad mates accept death only to be rescued at the last second by some out-of-nowhere air support? Yeah, the sheer number of guys the small group kills is a bit out there, but I love this level. Too bad the last two levels have a huge feeling of being rushed just to get things done. One of the main characters, Rabbit, ends up dying and is presented in a super sad, gut-wrenching way. Only issue is we know absolutely nothing about this guy. At no point does the story take any time to show us any flashbacks about the families or civilian lives of the protagonist, and as such, we feel no connection to them besides the simple respect for the soldiers of our nation type feeling. Moving on to multiplayer, yeah, the servers are still up and running. The modes available for play are all pretty standard. Team deathmatch, free-for-all, domination, that kind of stuff. And, wait a minute. It looks a bit different. Almost Battlefield-like. That's right, the single player and multiplayer were developed by different developers, with Danger Close Games being responsible for the former and DICE for the later. And let me tell you, if the differing graphical quality is a bit jarring, the two separate control setups for each modes is even more jarring. Now I don't mean like completely different, but why are the sprint buttons not the same? Why don't the face buttons on the controller do the same thing? Oh sure, the controller inputs are all responsive and the animations look good, for the most part. I have a feeling your avatar should be moving a bit faster in regards to what the audio says they should be.
Shit! Keep moving. Watch for guys in the rocks. Move up, Adams.
But just why? Now how the multiplayer actually plays is an odd mix between the twitch shooter and slower team-based gameplay of Call of Duty / Battlefield. On the medium-sized maps, this mix actually works wonderfully, as there are plenty of narrow corridors and tight corners for the shock players, along with the more open environments meant for close team coordination. When you try to play on pure open maps or the super close quarter maps, things start to crack. There is a decent amount of weapon customization for the separate soldier classes, yet for some reason, I couldn't but feel these options felt a bit tad uninspired. I know, it's a game set in the Middle East in the early 2000s, there's only so much the developers could have done. Sorry, but the class customization options are just kinda lackluster. Oh, and the spawning is a serious clusterfuck of poor design. There were so many times I would spawn back into a match after death, only to find an enemy player mere feet away from me and vice versa. I know COD players trash the spawning in that series on a yearly basis, but no, even the worst of the worst in Call of Duty is still a more balanced spawn system than here. Speaking of lackluster, we move on to the last two sections, graphics and sound design. I'll keep it short. For 2010, this isn't a bad looking game. There were certainly worse end sounding shooters at the time, but there are also much better ones. The voice acting is acceptable. This colonel has fucking balls of steel.
You're requesting danger close fires?
Affirmative. Listen to me
Romeo
here.
Delta requests danger close fire.
Roger. Gunner, you are cleared to fire warning shots in close proximity to enemy forces at grid 201889.
Come on. I know you're out there.
Though it doesn't really stand out at all. Graphically, we have a little bit of frame rate slowdown here and there, and the color brown. Lots of brown, with some white mixed here and there. Yes, I know, set in the Middle East. Textures are overall nicely done, audio mixing is at the same level of quality, and the god-awful glare. Look, Medal of Honor 2010 was meant to be a successful reboot to a struggling franchise. Now, how many of you actually remember this game for anything aside from you playing it upon release? Yeah, I didn't think so. Yes, playing a game set during the War on Terror in the early years, at the time, was an interesting idea. The gameplay is responsive, the multiplayer mix of Twitch shooter / team-based style yields mixed results. The single-player story fails to really grab the player on any real emotional level. Certain levels will have you seriously enjoying your time. The graphics are decent for 2010, yet show their age today. Me soda, me have muscles. And the audio is fine. It's a huge mixed bag. Did I have some genuine fun while playing it? Yeah, I did. Do I have any desire to play it ever again? Nope. And if that's not the definition of average, I don't know what is. Hello everyone, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you haven't yet, be sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring the little bell next to it so you'll always be notified whenever I upload things. I generally try to upload a new video every 2 weeks, but sometimes they just kind of arrived when they're finished. I really appreciate you taking the time to check out my tiny little channel, so the subscription would be much appreciated, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!